He married her for her money, but didn't know about the family curse. What would you do for ₦1 billion? Would you lie? Would you pretend? Would you marry? This is a story about a man who did. He married the richest woman in the East, thinking he had won life's ultimate lottery. He didn't know her family had already cashed a check from the gods, a check paid in curse. What happens when the universe decides to collect its debt? When the very ground beneath your golden palace begins to remember an ancient betrayal? Welcome, family, to a story where love is a contract, wealth is a trap, and a family curse doesn't just haunt you, it studies you. It waits, and then it takes exactly what you value most. This is the story of the man who married for money and the land that never forgets. The Golden Cave. The wedding of Chike and Ifunanya Nwadik was the most talked about event in Enugu that season. It wasn't a wedding, it was a spectacle, a declaration. Helicopters dropped rose petals over the Michael Okpara Square. The cake was a 6-tier replica of the National Arts Theater. The champagne fountain flowed with Dom Perignon, and the bride, Ifunanya, moved through it all with the serene, distant smile of a statue, draped in enough Belgian lace to sink a small boat. Chike, for his part, looked every inch the triumphant conqueror. At 35, he was handsome in a sharp, calculated way, clean-shaven, tailored suit hugging shoulders he'd built in a Victoria Island gym, eyes that missed nothing, especially figures on a balance sheet. As he raised his glass to toast his most precious jewel, his gaze swept over the crowd of politicians, business moguls, and social climbers, mentally calculating their net worth and future usefulness. Ifunanya was his masterpiece, the final, brilliant asset in his portfolio. He had met her 8 months prior at a charity gala for orphan children, an event he attended solely to be photographed with a senator. Ifunanya was the silent, strikingly beautiful woman in the corner, seemingly overwhelmed by the noise. A few discreet inquiries revealed her identity: the only child and sole heir of Chief Ephraim Nwadik, the cement king of the Southeast, a man of such legendary wealth and such reclusive secrecy that he was practically a ghost story with a bank account. The courtship was a masterclass in targeted manipulation. Chike discovered Ifunanya loved poetry, so he memorized Akigbo and ate. She was shy, so he orchestrated quiet, spontaneous picnics. She spoke of her late mother with tears, so he commissioned a portrait of her from a faded photograph. He was a mirror, reflecting exactly what she craved: sensitivity, understanding, quiet strength. He never spoke of money. He didn't need to. It was the elephant in every room they entered, a magnificent, silent beast that he was patiently leading to the altar. What he didn't know, what no one in his circle of champagne socialists and deal-makers knew, was the other story. The story whispered in the oldest quarters of Enugu, in the villages around the Nwadik ancestral home in Amankwo. The story of the letter 1ECD and letter 1ECD, the family curse. Ifunanya knew. She had grown up with it, a dark lullaby sung by the Harmattan wind against the wrought iron gates of their mansion. Her father, Chief Ephraim, a man hardened into granite by grief and guilt, had explained it to her on her 16th birthday in his book-lined study that smelled of old leather and dread. "Our wealth," he said, his voice like gravel shifting, "was not built on cement alone, my daughter. It was built on a betrayal. My grandfather, Nnamdi Nwadik, was the steward to the ancient oracle of the Long Juju of Arachukwu. When the British came, they offered him gold, land, and a title to lead them to the sacred grove and its treasures. He did. He betrayed his gods and his people for this." Chief Ephraim gestured to the opulence around them. The oracle cursed him. It said the wealth would flow, but it would never bring true happiness. It said love bought with this gold would turn to ash in the mouth. It said each generation would bear a mark, a sacrifice, until the debt of the betrayal was paid. Your grandfather died of a loneliness no company could cure. Your mother, he choked, unable to finish. Ifunanya's mother had died in childbirth, a beautiful, fragile woman who seemed to wither in the mansion's cold halls. The curse seeks balance, Ifunanya, he concluded, gripping her shoulders. It allows the wealth to come, but it takes the warmth. It allows marriage, but it forbids true union. Any man who marries a Nwadik woman for her wealth, the curse will unmake him. It will take from him what he values most. Remember this. A man's heart must be clean when he approaches you, or the land itself will judge him. Ifunanya had stored this away, a terrifying fairy tale. She watched her father, a billionaire who jumped at shadows, who poured millions into churches and shrines alike, trying to buy a peace that never came. She saw the isolation that was their true inheritance. When Chike appeared, so different, so attentive, she dared to hope. Perhaps he was the one to break the cycle. Perhaps his love was pure. She chose, desperately, to believe the latter. The first year of marriage was a gilded performance. They lived in Chike's sprawling penthouse in Lagos, Ikoyi, a monument to chrome and glass. Ifunanya had unlimited credit cards, a Ferrari, a personal stylist. Chike was the doting husband in public, holding her hand at galleries, kissing her cheek at dinners. In private, he was a CEO and she was a subsidiary. Conversations were briefings. "We're hosting the finance minister on Saturday. Wear the blue dress. My partners from China are coming. Tell the chef to prepare fisherman's soup, and smile more." The change started subtly, 3 days after their first anniversary. Chike was finalizing his biggest deal yet, a hostile takeover of a rival construction company. He needed a final cash injection, a show of liquidity to sway the board. He logged into the joint account where Ifunanya's quarterly trust fund payments landed, a sum so vast it was almost abstract. The balance was zero. Not low 0 naira, 0 kobo. He stared, his blood turning to ice. He called his banker, who stammered, "The funds were transferred out this morning, sir, to an agricultural cooperative in Amenkwo, authorized by Mrs. Obi." Chike stormed into the living room where Ifunanya was reading. "What is this?" he hissed, shoving his tablet in her face. 20 billion naira, gone, to plant yams in some village." Ifunanya looked up calm. "It's my money, Chike. The Uzomaka Women's Cooperative. They need grinding machines, irrigation. It's a good investment." "Investment? That's a handout. That money was for the Amokwu deal. You've jeopardized everything." His voice was a whip. "For the first time," she said softly, "it's being used for something that doesn't spread more misery. My father's money has always been a carrier of sorrow. I'm trying to change its course." This was a side of her he'd never seen, not the shy girl, but a woman with a will of iron. He was furious, but also intrigued. A fighter was more of a challenge, but the prize was still the same. He forced a smile. "Darling, we can do philanthropy later. Right now, I need that money. Please have it recalled." She met his gaze. "No." That single word shattered the script of their marriage. Chike realized the gentle dove had claws. He couldn't force her. The accounts were in her name, protected by labyrinthine trust laws crafted by her father's paranoid lawyers. He had access but not control. His golden cage had a lock and she held the key. He began to dig. He hired a private investigator, a grim-faced Yoruba man named Adebyo who had seen everything. "Find me everything on the Nwadiks," Chike ordered. "Every secret, every skeleton. There must be leverage." Adebyo's report came 2 weeks later. It was thin on financial scandal but thick with village gossip. Stories of sudden deaths, strange illnesses, a family haunted by bad luck. And then the word, letter 1 ECD and letter 1 ECD. Curse. Whispers of a betrayal to an ancient oracle, a curse that poisoned love sought for money. Chike laughed when he read it. Nonsense. Superstitious garbage. He was a modern man, an engineer by training. His world ran on logic, leverage, and liquid assets. Curses were for illiterates in villages. Yet things began to shift. It started with dreams. Vivid, terrifying dreams where he was back in his childhood village, not as a man but as a boy, and the earth itself was swallowing him. He would wake up gasping, the taste of red clay in his mouth. Then the coincidences. The Amokwu deal, which he'd salvaged with ruthless maneuvers, collapsed at the last minute due to a regulatory issue that appeared from nowhere. His most reliable business partner abruptly cut ties, citing a bad feeling. His health, always perfect, began to falter, strange fevers that came and went, a persistent cough no doctor could diagnose. And then the whispers started in his own social circle. At a club in Victoria Island, he overheard a snippet, "Marrying the Nwadik heiress. Brave man. That family is juju. My uncle did business with the old chief. Lost everything." People began to look at him with a mix of pity and morbid curiosity. The final straw was the photo. Chike kept a single, framed picture on his office desk, himself at 13, standing proudly beside the rusty Volkswagen Beetle his mother had slaved for years to buy him. It was his trophy, his proof that he had clawed his way from poverty. One Monday morning, he walked in to find the glass cracked, a perfect, jagged line splitting his young face from his mother's proud smile. The cleaner swore she'd touched nothing. That night, he confronted Ifunanya. They were on their sprawling balcony overlooking the Lagos Lagoon, the city lights shimmering like a bed of cold jewels. "This curse," he said, his voice tight, "tell me." Ifunanya looked at the distant lights. "It's not a monster in the dark, Chike. It's a law, a spiritual law of balance. You took something with a selfish heart. Now the universe will take from you. It will take what you cherish most. Not necessarily your life, but the thing that gives your life meaning." "What does that mean?" he snapped. "I don't know," she whispered. "For my grandfather, it was his legacy. His sons died young. For my father, it was love. My mother died. The curse finds the anchor of your soul and unmoors it." Chike scoffed, but his hand trembled as he poured a drink. "My soul is anchored in this," he said, gesturing to the penthouse, the city. "In my success, my name." "If that were true," Ifunanya said, turning to him, her eyes finally holding the sorrow she'd hidden for so long, "you wouldn't be so afraid." The unraveling accelerated. It was as if the very fabric of Chike's meticulously constructed reality began to fray at the edges. His law firm, the bedrock of his legitimacy, was hit with a surprise tax audit revealing irregularities. He had no knowledge of forged signatures, ghost contracts. His reputation, his most prized possession, began to stain. Panicked, he decided to liquidate everything, to take what he could and run. Maybe to Dubai, where money washed away all sins. He needed Ifunanya's signature to release the bulk of her assets tied up in real estate. He found her in the library packing a small suitcase. "Going somewhere?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Home," she said simply. "To Amenkwo, my father is not well." "Perfect. You can sign the power of attorney papers before you go. I'll handle the estate sales." Ifunanya closed the suitcase with a soft click. "No, Chike, I'm not signing anything, and I'm not coming back." The air left the room. "What are you talking about?" "I knew," she said, her voice heartbreakingly calm. "Not at first, but I knew. The way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't watching. It wasn't love, it was appraisal. You married my father's balance sheet. The curse was waiting for you the moment you said I do with greed in your heart." "You believe in this nonsense," he roared, fear morphing into rage. "It doesn't matter what I believe. It believes in you. Look at your life, Chike. It's crumbling from the inside out. The deal, your partners, your health, your reputation. It's taking it all piece by piece, just like it took my mother from my father." "I'll fight it," he spat. "I'll hire the best pastors, the best native doctors. I'll break it." "You can't break a mirror by shouting at your reflection," she said. "The curse is you, Chike. It's the consequence of your own choice. The only thing that might stay its hand is genuine remorse, a true change of heart." He laughed, a hollow, desperate sound. "Remorse for what? For securing my future, for taking what was offered." Ifunanya picked up her suitcase. "Then the curse will run its course. Goodbye, Chike." He grabbed her arm. "You can't leave. You're my wife. Everything you have is mine." In that moment, a strange thing happened. The ornate library lamp above them, a solid, heavy thing of bronze and crystal, simply detached from the ceiling and crashed to the floor between them, shattering into 1,000 pieces. No earthquake, no loose screw, it just fell. They both stared at the wreckage, a warning. Ifunanya pulled her arm free. "It's already begun," she whispered and walked out. Part 2, The Unmaking. Alone in the echoing penthouse, Chike Obi descended into a private hell. The curse, once an abstract village tale, now had a taste, like copper and dust, and a sound, the silent, relentless ticking of a clock counting down to his ruin. His first move was defiance. He flew in a famous prophet from Ghana, a man with a televised ministry and a fleet of private jets. The prophet prayed, anointed, shouted, and declared the curse broken for a donation that made Chike wince. The next day, Chike's flagship construction site in Lekki collapsed, not due to structural failure but because a swarm of bees, a type not seen in Lagos for decades, invaded the site, driving workers into a panic. The project was delayed indefinitely. He then sought a native doctor, a Babalawo from Asogbo rumored to communicate with the deepest spirits. The old man, after a long divination with cowrie shells, shook his head. "This is letter 1ECD letter 1ECD, letter 1E5L, letter 1ECD, a family curse from a wounded earth. It is not a spell I can remove. It is a judgment. You must make amends to the source." The source? What, some pagan god in the bush? The source is the betrayal, the land that was violated, the woman whose heart you treated as a transaction. Until you face that, you are just pouring sand on a rising flood. Furious, Chike refused to pay him. The losses became personal. His health deteriorated further, mysterious rashes, debilitating migraines. Doctors found nothing. His friends, sensing the strange tide of misfortune around him, drifted away. His phone, once buzzing incessantly with deals, fell silent. Then the final blow landed. It came not with a bang but with a letter, from a small, prestigious primary school in Banana Island, a place so exclusive it had a 2-year waiting list for infants. He had secured a spot for his godson, Emeka, his late sister's only child. Chike had no children of his own. Emeka was the closest thing to a son, his secret vulnerability, the pure, uncalculated love in his life. The boy called him Daddy Chike. The letter was cold, formal. Emeka's place was being withdrawn. No explanation. Chike called, demanded answers. The headmistress, voice strained, finally confessed. "A member of our board, a major donor," he insisted. "He said it was for the good of the school's energy. Mr. Obi, I'm so sorry. There were pressures." Chike knew. The curse had found his anchor. It wasn't the money, the cars, the penthouse. It was that small, bright-eyed boy who looked at him like a hero. It was the one relationship he had not engineered for profit. The curse was taking Emeka away from him. He broke. The proud, calculating man crumpled onto his Italian marble floor and wept tears of pure, undiluted terror. This was the unmaking. It wasn't killing him. It was isolating him, stripping away every pillar of his identity until he was left naked and alone in the dark. In his despair, a memory surfaced. Ifunanya on their third date speaking softly about her mother. She loved the garden in Amankwo. She said the soil there remembered kindness. She would plant okra and sing to it. At the time, Chike had filed it away as sentimental nonsense. Now it felt like a clue. Driven by a desperation that overrode all pride and logic, he did the unthinkable. He got in his car and began the long drive to Amankwo, to the heart of the Nwadik ancestral land, to the source of the wealth and the wound. The Nwadik compound was not the opulent mansion he expected. It was a large, graceful but weathered old house surrounded by lush, almost aggressive greenery. It felt alive in a way his sterile penthouse never did. Ifunanya was there, tending not to a manicured lawn but to a vibrant, chaotic vegetable garden. She wore simple jeans and a t-shirt, her hair in a scarf. She looked younger, real. She didn't seem surprised to see him, only sad. "You look terrible, Chike." "I feel terrible," he said, his voice raw. He didn't try to lie or charm. The mask was gone, shattered. It's taken Emeka's school place. It's going to take him from me, please. Ifunanya put down her trowel. I can't stop it, Chike. I told you I'm not the curse, I'm just connected to it. What do I do? He begged, the words foreign on his tongue. Tell me what to do. She was silent for a long time, watching a butterfly dance over the okra leaves. My father is dying, she said finally. The doctors give him weeks. He wants to see you. Chief Ephraim Nwadike was a skeleton wrapped in expensive silk pajamas, propped up in a vast bed in a dark room. The air smelled of medicine and impending death, but his eyes, when they focused on Chike, were like hot coals. You are the one, the old man croaked, the one who came for the gold. Chike stood at the foot of the bed, shamed. Yes. You think you are the first, my father, my grandfather. They were surrounded by such men, vultures circling a dying bull. The curse picked them clean. It will pick you clean too. I don't care about the money anymore, Chike burst out, the truth finally breaking free. Let it take it all. The houses, the cars, everything, just not the boy, please. Chief Ephraim studied him, and for the first time a flicker of something besides contempt appeared. Ah, so it has found your heart, not your wallet. Good, that is the first step. What is the second? Reparation, the old man said, coughing weakly. The curse was laid because of a betrayal of the land and its spirits. The wealth it spawned is poisoned. To break its hold on you, you must cleanse the transaction. You must give back, not to Ifunanya, not to me, to the land itself. You must perform an act of value that expects nothing in return, an offering that is pure. Chike, the ultimate calculator, struggled with the concept. How? What offering? You will know, Chief Ephraim whispered, his eyes closing. If your heart is truly changed, the opportunity will present itself, and you must take it even if it costs you the last of your worldly pride. Now leave me. I am tired. Chike spent the next week in Amankwo, a stranger in a strange land. He stayed in a modest guest house, his designer clothes utterly out of place. He watched Ifunanya work with the women's cooperative, saw the genuine joy the new grinding machines brought. He saw poverty, but also a resilient community. He, who had always seen people as assets or liabilities, began to see them as people. The opportunity came on a market day. A ramshackle bus, overloaded with farmers and their goods, had a blowout on the treacherous road leading out of the village, tumbling into a ditch. There were injuries. The local clinic was under-equipped, the nearest real hospital hours away. The community gathered, but the sense of helplessness was palpable. Chike acted without thinking. He commandeered his own SUV, loaded the three most seriously injured, a young mother, a broken-legged boy, an elderly man, and drove like a madman, breaking every traffic law to the teaching hospital in Enugu. He used the last of his liquid cash, the emergency funds he kept hidden, to pay for their admissions, insisting on the best care. He stayed for 2 days, sleeping in a chair, following up with doctors. He was no hero. He was a frantic man clinging to a lifeline called an act of value. When he returned to Amankwo, exhausted and penniless, something had shifted. The suspicious stares from the villagers were less hostile. Ifunanya brought him a bowl of stew. They are saying you are not completely a snake, she said, a ghost of a smile on her lips. That night, for the first time in months, he slept without dreams of drowning. A week later, Chief Ephraim died. On his deathbed, he had given Ifunanya a final instruction. After the burial, a simple ceremony was to be held at the ancient, now overgrown grove that was once sacred to the oracle, the very place his ancestor had betrayed. The whole village attended, along with a handful of wary Nwadike relatives. A very old priest who seemed to be made of bark and wisdom presided. He spoke of forgiveness, of cycles, of allowing poisoned streams to dry up so new water could flow. Then he called Chike forward. Chike's knees felt weak. The priest placed in his hands not a Bible or a talisman, but a young sapling, an Iroko tree seedling. The wealth came from a betrayal of this earth, the priest said, his voice carrying without effort. You sought that wealth with a betrayer's heart. Now you must plant a new seed, not for profit, not for show, for life, for the future you will never see. Tend it. Let your hands, which only knew how to take, learn to give life. This is your reparation. Under the watchful eyes of the village of Ifunanya and of the spirit of the old chief, Chike Obi dug a hole in the red earth of the sacred grove. He placed the sapling in, covered its roots, and watered it. The act was absurdly simple, humbling. As he patted down the soil, a profound exhaustion and a strange, light peace washed over him. He had given something and asked for nothing. He felt the invisible chain around his soul snap. The curse did not vanish in a puff of smoke. Chike's fortune was still largely gone, tied up in legal battles and collapsed ventures. His reputation in Lagos was in tatters, but the active persecution stopped. The strange illnesses faded. The run of horrific bad luck ceased. Emeka's school quietly reinstated his place, the mysterious pressures having evaporated. Chike didn't return to Lagos. He had no empire to return to. Instead, he asked Ifunanya if he could stay in Amankwo, not as her husband, but as a man seeking to rebuild himself from the ground up, literally. To everyone's shock, especially his own, she agreed. He started small, using his engineering knowledge not for skyscrapers, but for designing efficient irrigation channels for the cooperative's farms. He taught basic bookkeeping to the women. He became the man who fixed things leaking roofs, stubborn generators. He was paid in yams, in goodwill, in respect. It was the hardest, most fulfilling work of his life. He and Ifunanya lived separately on the compound, a careful distance between them. The greed that had driven him to her was gone, burned away. What remained was a complicated respect, a shared history of trauma, and a tentative, genuine friendship. Sometimes in the evening they would walk to the grove to check on the Iroko sapling. It was thriving. One evening, 2 years after his world ended, they stood watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and purples. The Iroko was now taller than Chike. "I don't think I can ever love you the way you deserve to be loved at the beginning," Chike said quietly, the words pulled from a deep, honest place. "That chance was ruined by my own hands." Ifunanya looked at the growing tree, a symbol of a future he would likely not live to see fully realized. "Maybe," she said, "but you're learning to love other things, this land, these people, an honest day's work. That's a start." The curse wasn't about punishing love, it was about punishing its counterfeit. Maybe real love can grow in the space the counterfeit left behind. A different kind, a slower kind. She didn't take his hand, but she stood beside him in the quiet of the redeemed earth as the first stars appeared. The curse had unmade Chike Obi, the ruthless opportunist. In its place, it left a man flawed, humble, and finally, real. And the Iroko tree, planted in reparation, continued to grow, its roots reaching deep into the earth, weaving a new story into the old, wounded soil. Like this video. Subscribe to African Sleeping Stories. Ring that bell so you never miss a tale to dream on. And in the comments, tell us, what is one seed of kindness you can plant in your own life this week? To our cherished listeners, our African Sleeping Stories family, your love is the water that helps our stories grow. To those just finding us tonight, welcome home. May this story bring you peaceful dreams and a light heart. Until next time, remember, the most powerful magic is not in curses but in choices. Choose wisely, love deeply, sleep well. Good night. The end.